What's up, everybody? This is Jimmy Faluca reporting. For the first time in a long while, no longer as a member of the NWO News Wrestling Organization page. For a few months, I was part of a page with a bunch of my friends that we talked about wrestling, and for a while it was fun, but after seeing what I saw at the Royal Rumble and seeing so many people okay with how it went, I decided it was time for me to step away because I just got sick and tired of the hearing basically excuses on why it was okay for Batista to win, why it was okay for Bryan to be left out of the spot, and honestly, I got sick and tired of the IWC mark bullshit being thrown in my path. Because now we're in 2014, and it's not like it was in 1998 where you can be boisterous, be opinionated, and be passionate about professional wrestling without people calling you certain fucking things. And honestly, I just got annoyed with it. Most of my friends like to enjoy it for what it is. I don't. I see the same people throwing Mark and IWC in my way that go nuts over the New York Rangers, go nuts over the New York Yankees, go nuts over the New York Giants. They go nuts over sports that, for all you know, games could be thrown. It's happened before. But when it comes to this shit, it doesn't fly. You're not allowed to be that way. And I actually just got annoyed with it, and I got annoyed with being the only person in the group that felt deflated at the end of the Rumble and was pissed off with how it went down. But as it turns out, I'm not alone when it comes to being dissatisfied with the usage of Daniel Bryan, who, it's no longer an arguable point, the most popular professional wrestler on the planet. Period. John Cena has officially lost his spot as the one that gets the biggest reaction from the audience. I never thought I'd be able to say that, but Daniel Bryan now has that spot, who gets the biggest reaction out of everybody. And for a long time, I kept hearing people say, you want to know why John Cena is the feature guy? Because he gets 100% of the reaction. We're going to test that out, because now Bryan gets 100% of the reaction. I don't see him in the championship picture yet. You know, I know he's in the Elimination Chamber match, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to win. I think he should. I think it's long overdue. I think fans have been waiting since SummerSlam for this poor bastard to finally get his, but it hadn't happened yet. But getting a little off track. I want to touch on the Rumble and the backlash that happened afterwards. Daniel Bryan faced Bray Wyatt in what I thought was a very good match. A very good match. And some of my favorites have had matches at the Rumble and lost, and I thought that they were good matches. The Undertaker and the two casket matches he had at the Royal Rumble against Yokozuna and the one against Shawn Michaels. Those are two of my favorites, and Taker lost both of them. Albeit by interference, but he still lost. Bryan lost cleanly to Bray Wyatt, and I was saying to myself when, they were cutting to the next promo, I said, okay, listen, if Bryan lost this match clean, and he's the one that called for it, more than likely he'll win the Rumble. Boy, was I wrong. Because not only did Bryan not win the Rumble, he didn't even compete in it. And I'm sitting here scratching my head like, are you kidding me? This guy's the most popular guy you have, and you left him out on purpose. And then I had to hear idiotic, that's how I'm calling it, idiotic responses of, oh, they were worried about his concussion. Yeah, that's Sister Abigail against the guardrail. Yeah, that's a lot of concern for a concussion. Anyways, that's why I left the page to begin with. I got so sick and tired of the excuses. Batista's going to draw a crowd like The Rock. I wasn't aware that Batista was the same stature of The Rock in any way, shape, or form. Maybe he's a decent worker, but he ain't The Rock in any way, shape, or form as far as drawing capabilities. The ratings went up just a little bit once, and they immediately put Batista in the spot that he's in now. And I was so happy to see that when Rey Mysterio came out, and it wasn't Daniel Bryan, the crowd took a big shit all over that Royal Rumble. But at the same time, I was sad because I'm like, wow, this is the first time ever that a Royal Rumble is getting this much heat. And this isn't heel heat, this is go away heat. I mean, can you guys ever recall a time, any wrestling fans that are watching this, can you guys ever recall a time where a majority of fans were that pissed? I mean, the next day, this shit was on the BBC, for crying out loud. And it didn't even mention Batista's name. All it mentioned was that Daniel Bryan wasn't in it. And people were mad about it. I mean, you had a legend like Mick Foley. Apparently, he's put a brick through his TV because he was so pissed off that Daniel Bryan isn't being utilized the way he should be. It's obvious to the Hall of Famers how good this kid is. But apparently, upper WWE management thinks that the yes thing is the only thing that's over, and it's not Daniel Bryan. I think I've heard just as much Daniel Bryan chants as much as I've heard the yes chant. That's just their rationalization for not putting him in that spot. When the fact of the matter is the McMahon family has a bodybuilder fetish, and that's what it is. I know it's a usual trait that internet fans like to use, but it's a fact. Because you look at Batista and you look at Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan is so far over Batista as far as fan response and love getting love from the audience. Nobody gave two shits about who was in that Royal Rumble. If your name wasn't Daniel Bryan, the fans didn't give a shit. So, big ups to where the Rumble was held in Philly. Big ups to that crowd because you pretty much let them know how most of us feel. Because whether anyone realizes it or not, wrestling fans that actually give a shit, are the majority. It's the small minority of people, like a bunch of people on that page that I was part of, that just enjoy it for what it is and can give two shits less. In my opinion, if you don't care about what happens and you're not invested in it, you shouldn't watch. I lost my investment in the New York Mets because I know they suck. That's why I don't watch anymore. I stopped watching the Giants after 7 games because I knew that they weren't going nowhere. And lo and behold, I was right. They didn't win anything. You don't watch something you're not invested in. I don't know why you'd waste your time if you really don't give two shits what happened. I just don't understand how Kevin Nash, JBL, and El Torito had a spot in the Rumble and Bryan didn't. There probably would have been more heat if they let him in and then had Batista eliminate him. But there was no excuse for that. They can't say they were worried about his concussion because that Sister Abigail up against the guardrail was vicious. That was one of the more vicious spots I've seen in a while. Following the Rumble, after unfortunately Batista won, he was flipping fans off. He was mocking the Daniel Bryan thing, doing the yes, but instead with his pointer fingers, it was with the middle finger. And people were pissed. I mean, fans were legitimately pissed off. And I said to myself, I'm not going to watch Raw tomorrow. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have somebody else watch for me. And I'll only watch when Daniel Bryan comes out because I'm not giving these fuckers ratings for anything else. And that's exactly what I did. Fortunately, I got to skip most of the show because Bryan was in the opening segment and he was in the final segment. And looking back on the first segment, I mean, it's like Triple H and Stephanie knew that the fans were not satisfied with how that Royal Rumble went. And Triple H, I mean, I don't know the real Paul Levesque. I really don't know him. And I can't pass judgment on him, but I can pass judgment on his character. My God, what a dickhead you are, Triple H. What a dickhead you are. Oh, did someone not get what that? You're damn right we didn't get what we wanted because we want him. We don't want your friends. We don't want your students, Randy Orton and Batista. We don't want them. We don't want your New Age outlaws. They're friggin' old as dirt. Honestly, I didn't really have a problem with the Outlaws winning the tag titles because, in my opinion, they should drop it to the Usos. I didn't really want to see the Rhodes brothers lose cleanly to another face tag team. I actually think it plays into the Rhodes brothers actually having a match at WrestleMania, which would make a hell of a lot more sense because I did a fantasy booking on the Daniel Bryan Future World Champion page, which I'm proud to post this on, of my fantasy WrestleMania card, and the second match on my card was Cody Rhodes versus Goldust with Dusty Rhodes as a special guest referee, and I think that would be a good match. That'd be a good show opener. You know, if you don't want it to be the second match, have WrestleMania open with it. But Royal Rumble was the Triple H show. Batista won the Rumble. Orton retained the title. The Outlaws won the tag titles, and the main returns you had in the Royal Rumble was Kevin Nash and Sheamus. Notice, and then you guys wonder why there's complaints. There's a small minority of wrestling fans out there, and I'm not going to give names on Facebook because I'm not going to point fingers, but you guys know who you are. You guys enjoy it for what it is, and you bash anyone that complains, and you call them marks, and you say that your life revolves around it. Yeah, I love wrestling, and I got nothing to be ashamed of. Some of you guys only care about when you're going to get your next beer. Yeah, that's a hell of a life. Hell of a life. I feel as a person that pays his taxes, works 6 days a week, and is this close to being in law school, I earn the right to have a fucking hobby. My hobbies don't hurt anybody. My hobbies don't cause anybody pain. If I get aggravated, I get aggravated. Doesn't affect anybody else. And if you can't handle watching the show with me because I'm a loud and proud person, don't come here and watch. Majority of my friends come to my house to watch pay-per-views. And the fact of the matter is this, they know how I am. My true friends accept me for who I am. And whoever doesn't accept me for what I am and who I am doesn't belong here. Doesn't matter how long I know you. There are people that I talk to online that I'd rather watch the show with than some of the people I see all the time. Because they agree with me. And they agree with the truth. And I'm not trying to be arrogant saying that I have a monopoly on the truth. I have to look at things logically. That's how I made it through criminal justice college. That's how I'm making it into getting into law school. You have to look at things logically. Now, if you're going to look at it from a logical standpoint, who is the most popular wrestler in the world right now? Hello? Who gets the biggest reaction whenever he comes out? Hello? And whose match are the fans most invested in? This guy. If he wasn't getting reactions, I wouldn't be able to say a word. I mean, it's not like the guy gets reactions like Kofi Kingston. It's not even close. So it was frustrating for a long while, but now I finally separated myself from that page. I've gone my own way. And I'm a proud member of the Daniel Bryan Future World Champion page. And I have to say, it's pretty much where I belong when it comes to being online because they support the best wrestler in the world. They support the most popular guy in the business. I mean, Batista picked up and left when the WWE was at its lowest. Now that it's starting to get hot again, he wants to come back in. 7 days in, he wins the Royal Rumble, and he expects fans to buy that? If Batista paid any attention to the product for just the last 6 months, he should have known walking in who the most popular guy is. And he had the nerve to get mad at the fans because they were pissed that the guy didn't get the break. On Raw, Triple H and Stephanie came out and were basically mocking the fans because they didn't get what they wanted. And then the eruption came because Daniel Bryan came out. And Daniel Bryan did something that I have been waiting months for him to do. He got right in Triple H's face. And he manned up. He didn't talk nice like he usually does, which that was something I was getting really sick of. And I love Bryan, but I got sick and tired of the kid gloves. He finally took those gloves off, and he told Triple H, I'm not leaving this ring till I get what I want. And of course, Triple H took the coward's way out and sent the Shield out to do his dirty work. They couldn't even come out and do that, and Rollins took a tumble. I can only imagine how embarrassed he must have felt. And then Sheamus and John Cena came out to make the save, and that worries me because I'm hoping that they're not going to set up Daniel Bryan versus Sheamus. I mean, that would be such a step down for Bryan. And not that Sheamus is bad, but it would be so beneath him right now to have to be in a match with Sheamus, who hasn't been relevant in months. And even before he got injured, no one gave two fucks about him. They really didn't care. He was getting stale. I think that injury was the best thing that ever happened to him because it gave him a chance to go away, get time away from the cameras, and actually adapt a little bit better. Maybe learn something new. I'm hoping that Daniel Bryan does not have to fight Sheamus at WrestleMania because that would be such a waste. And then WrestleMania will be just like the Royal Rumble and just like Survivor Series. You put two other guys in the main event, the fans are still going to cheer for Daniel Bryan. Now, is it a smart business move? When you're launching your network, a network that you're banking on is going to be big, is it wise to tease your audience and not give them exactly what they want? Because after Elimination Chamber, you're going to know your WrestleMania matches, or you're going to have a pretty damn good idea. And if the fans aren't going to get what they want, may not be all of them, but a portion of them are going to be pissed and are going to be spiteful. And they're just going to stream shit on their own. That's what I plan to do for Elimination Chamber. I am not paying for an Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. Not going to do it because I don't have faith in them. They haven't given me any reason to have faith in them. Teasing a little bit here and there that Bryan's going to finally get ahead, I've seen that happen 1,000 times. And I don't trust WWE booking. I don't trust WWE management. Don't trust them. And that's why I do what I do. And most people turn and say, why do you even bother going online and doing this? Because this is the only way that I have to let out my frustrations. It's a healthy way. It's a healthy way of venting. Not causing any harm to myself. I sacrifice 25, 30 minutes of my time after studying and working. I think I've earned that rest. After the last 2 nights, I don't understand how the WWE could not put Daniel Bryan in the title match at WrestleMania. I don't understand how they can do that and think it's a good business move. Batista starring in Guardians of the Galaxy is not a good enough reason to put him above their most popular talent. That's like back in '98 when Stone Cold was white hot and he was beginning his ascent. They bring back Lex Luger because he's starring in a movie and he was an old popular star. Now, I'm not saying Luger was as popular as Batista was in his prime, but it's essentially the same concept. It's a lousy business move. And I also take time to listen to a podcast that takes place every Sunday, and I guess it's a shout out to him. His name is the Solomon, so you see him on TV tracks all the time. He's actually very accurate, and I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to say about the developments of the Royal Rumble and what happened on Monday. I cannot wait to hear his podcast on Sunday. He made a statement in his Layfield report trying to make a case for a match that I would love to see main event WrestleMania, and that would be Brock Lesnar versus Daniel Bryan for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, in which Bryan would finally get one up on the Authority, slay their paid-off beast, and leave WrestleMania with 75,000 people chanting yes. That'll immortalize him. That happens and Daniel Bryan leaves WrestleMania as the WWE World Heavyweight Champion, he will be immortalized from the pop he gets. And I think deep down Triple H knows that, and that's why he doesn't want it to happen, because for whatever reason, Triple H is against guys that are small, and so is Vince McMahon. But you would think after guys like Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Mick Foley, Rey Mysterio, all of those guys are legends. What's changed? You don't have to look like Lou Ferrigno to be the top star in WWE. I don't know why that mindset is in place. It doesn't make any sense. Because I know guys that are half the size of John Cena that could probably break him in half. Because they're skilled. Now, if Bryan didn't have this connection with the audience, I wouldn't be able to say a word. As much as I love the guy, if he doesn't have a connection with the audience, he doesn't belong on top. But he's got a connection with the audience that does not happen every single day. You're lucky if it happens once in a generation. But of this generation, Daniel Bryan is most connected with the audience than anybody else. John Cena's here, Daniel Bryan's here. And I'm talking as far as a connection with the audience. And if you're that connected with the audience and you're not in the main event, it is not your fault. It's management. Management is screwing all of this up. And if they were smart, they would have just had Bryan win the Rumble. I laid it out perfectly of how they could have went with this. And it's very simple. You have Randy Orton retain the title, which he did. And I actually thought that they may end up going with my idea. You have Randy Orton screw Batista out of the Royal Rumble. Daniel Bryan goes on to win. Orton realizes he fucked up. At Elimination Chamber, you have Daniel Bryan have a rematch with Bray Wyatt with Daniel Bryan's spot on the line. Because you can't just leave Daniel Bryan off the pay-per-view. You just can't. That would be a bad move. And Bryan obviously wins because he's going to go on to WrestleMania to face the champion and win. You then have Batista screw Randy Orton out of his title win over Brock Lesnar. And Brock Lesnar wins the championship. Now, I know you're like, oh, what about the Elimination Chamber? I already figured that part out. You have an Elimination Chamber match in which John Cena wins so he could challenge the streak. That's what the Elimination Chamber should be used for. To decide who faces The Undertaker. And I would have John Cena win. Obviously, The Undertaker would keep the streak. There ain't no way I'd be willing to sacrifice the streak for anybody. Even Daniel Bryan. As much as I love him, I would not want anyone to break the streak. Let alone John Cena. And then there's two big money matches. And you get one mid-card match. Batista versus Randy Orton, which that's what it looks like they're going with. But anything can change between now and WrestleMania. That's a match I would have in the middle of the card, and Batista would go over because, really, Orton, who cares about him? Nobody gave a shit about Orton until he cashed in. Until he won the Money in the Bank briefcase. He hasn't been in the WWE Championship scene for a long time, and it looked like the fans were okay with that. You have John Cena face The Undertaker. That's one of the best matches I could possibly put together, and people would want to see it. And you have Brock Lesnar go up against Daniel Bryan. And anyone who says that match wouldn't make sense, watch CM Punk versus Brock Lesnar. That was the match of the year, not Rock Cena 2. That match is horrible, and I could say that because I was there live and I watched it. It was horrendous. Brock Lesnar and CM Punk had the best match of the year. There's no question about that. So Brock and Bryan would actually make sense. You have the Kimura lock versus the Yes lock. And you have the two submission specialists clash. Now, I'm not saying Brock has to get tapped out by him. But as long as Bryan walks out with the belt, there's your payoff from SummerSlam. And then you're off and running, and Bryan can have a good run. You make Triple H throw one challenger after another against him, and Bryan cuts them all down for as long as you can go. With Elimination Chamber coming up, I have no idea what it is that they're looking to do. I hope to God that this whole Daniel Bryan versus Sheamus thing gets thrown out the window because this guy is he's too popular to be wasted on Sheamus. Not that Sheamus is a bad talent, but as far as a connection with the crowd and the level of importance that Bryan brings to the show, Sheamus is not in his league. And I ask everyone out there, if you don't watch anything else on this video, answer this question. Do you really want WrestleMania, the main event, to be hijacked by the majority? Because we will. We have no problem hijacking WrestleMania, just like we hijacked Survivor Series, just like we hijacked the Royal Rumble. Is that how you want the biggest show of the year to go off? That's a question WWE has to ask themselves. Do we really want to push the fans this far that they're going to shit on our main event? Because that's never happened before. The only few times I could think that the crowd was dead for the main event was 25 and 18. But that was only because the two matches that preceded that shined the most on the card, exhausted the fans. It wasn't because the fans didn't care about the match. They were exhausted. And I'm talking about Hogan versus Rock and Taker versus Shawn Michaels 1. Both those matches exhausted the fans. That's why by the time you got to the main event, the fans were out of it. But if you put Daniel Bryan in the ring with Sheamus, and he's not in the title match, the main match, you're going to have 75,000 people extremely pissed off. And they're going to hijack that match. You don't leave your most popular guy out of the main matches. You just don't. Especially in this business, you don't do that. And I disagree with what JR had to say. Daniel Bryan needs to be the champion. Because we need the payoff. It's that simple. WWE started a storyline the moment Triple H pedigreed him. We are still waiting for the happy ending. We're still waiting for that finish. Where Daniel Bryan finally sticks his middle finger in the authority's face, takes the title, or I should say titles, and puts them over his shoulder where they belong. They could make so much money off his popularity if they actually went with it. I truly believe that it would be astounding. And the reason people aren't spending money is because they don't believe WWE is going to reward them for their patience. I think once they start going with him, you'll see something incredible. You'll see something we haven't seen since 98, 99. I have that much faith in the guy. And if you really think about it, Daniel Bryan abridges all the different trends in the WWE. Men, women, and children. He brings all of them together. Women love him. Guys love him. Kids love him. Why does it have to be a divided crowd when you could have somebody that all the fans are into? This is WWE's best shot at getting someone that has everyone into him. And I don't know what they're planning to do. All I know is this, because I agree with everything that Mick Foley has said, including his son. If WrestleMania's title match does not include Daniel Bryan, then the WWE's got problems. They've got serious problems. And it's a problem that they won't be able to bounce back from in terms of the network. Because a lot of people are going to be pissed, and a lot of people are not going to shell out money just to spite them. They've got 10 weeks. As Foley said, they got 10 weeks to make this right. Let's just keep our fingers crossed that they actually do this. Because if they don't, well, then we all need to come up with a different alternative to deal with them. And I'd like to make a suggestion. This is directly to the Daniel Bryan page. I hope you guys watch this because I may have a little bit of a solution. We need to elect 4 or 5 people on the page to watch Raw in its entirety for us. But they need to inform us on the page when Daniel Bryan's on television so we can all turn our TVs on and give him the ratings. That's what I think we need to do. That means that a lot of us on this page are going to have to sacrifice our wired mentality to watch Raw in its entirety. But I think if we could elect 5 people on the page to watch Raw in its entirety and reach a lot of people through this method, we could send WWE a message. As much as I don't like the comments that Lance Storm has been making, because I think he's a jerk, he did make a little bit of sense. We have to hit them where it hurts. We got to hit them with their TV viewership. This is what I suggest. I don't know who the admin is on this page. Whoever you are, I hope you hear me out. We need to elect 5 people that we trust on this page. 5 people that will watch Raw and SmackDown for us. Or actually, SmackDown, we could just look at the spoilers so we could give Daniel Bryan the ratings, so that really won't be necessary. But you could still do it if you so choose. I'm not an admin on the page, nor do I want to be. I'm just a fan, and I'm trying to help. We elect 5 people, and when Daniel Bryan shows up on television, post on the page, Bryan's on TV, everyone turn your shit on. Because I don't know how many people are actually on this page, but if we could deliver this message and spread it to other wrestling pages and have this become viral, we'll send a message. And I think if we send a message that strong, they'll have no choice. You guys all take care, and I'll see you guys after the Elimination Chamber. Take care.